That was very well spoken, Oliver. And I think it's a great segue into our next topic. So I'm going to let Roger take it over and go into that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And if a whole real estate thing doesn't work out for me, I'm going to go back to construction and get a job with you. I hear a lot of things through what you've said, and it sounds like mindset is huge. When you talk about Les Brown being kind of a mentor, it helped you get through this time when you were shy to talk on the phone and everything else. And I think mindset's what pushes us through those difficult times. It's like, I know I'm better. I know I can do this. I don't know exactly how, but I believe it can be done. Who's been your mentors in time, and how do you go about mentoring like your kids and everything else?
Yeah, I've had so many mentors. I mean, my parents have been great mentors to me. My in-laws have been great mentors to me. Honestly, I'm a person that just absorbs from everybody. I didn't have my dad growing up with us full time. So I was always a person that and I see it in my kids even now to this day, they're always kind of like, they sit back a little bit and they kind of are taking things in. And I've always been that type of person that takes things in. So I've taken a little bit from so many different people, and it's just a testament of I'm just a student. I want to grow. I want to learn. There's no ego in it for me. I'm willing to, if you got a better way, I'm willing to totally throw away my way and take your way. And it's it's little things even for I heard one of my friends talk to their daughter one time, and he was like, she said something or she did something, and he's like, "Hey, honey, you don't want to do it that way." And I just loved how he put in front of that, "Hey, honey," and that would have been never something that I would have said. I never would have said it that way. But I was like, when I have a kid, I'm gonna take that. I say that stuff to my daughter now. Then and just it almost smoothens whatever Oliver would be, So it's but yeah, I'm a student. I learned from so many people, but some of the bigger mentors in my life have been the Les Browns. He totally got me working my mindset, the business side of things when I was down and out, when I had lost $30,000 on my first job, and I thought my life was over. I ruined everything. Listening to him gave me so much confidence to keep moving forward and to learn from the lesson, because those exact lessons that I learned on that box culvert job, and the way the subcontractor or the general contractor talked to me as the subcontractor, and how we positioned everything, are the exact same things that we've done over the last 10 years. And we've generated now over $100 million doing that. You know what I mean? So I could have just walked away in that moment when I lost that $30,000, but I stayed after, and I taken those learnings. It's one thing to get your butt beat, but then to take the learnings to then go apply that into the marketplace to then win. So Les Brown's been a huge factor in my life. Grant Cardone has been a big factor in my life, just with his thought process. Once I started getting a little bit of success, my thought process was oh, Oliver, now that you got success, I can go back and hang out with my old friends and start, maybe using the success to go party with those guys. And he caught me just at the right time. And he's like, "Dude, you're not even that successful. Get going." Yeah. And I was and I didn't even meet him. I was just listening to his books and watching his little YouTube videos. And I was like, holy cow. And that's what really pushed me to that $10 million level. And then once I got there, I was telling you before, I was the saddest I've ever been in my entire life, because I thought I had reached the pinnacle. I didn't really think about anything after $10 million. And then that's when I went to Rod Cleef's event, and that's when I met Adam Adams. And he helped me think through resetting the goals and resetting the targets to help me get into multifamily real estate. I was prior to that, I was only doing the single families and the duplexes. And, Rod started talking about cash flow from day one. You still could fix my construction bug by doing your value add renovations. So, Rod's been a great mentor in my life. And then another mentor in my life has been Brandon Dawson. He's the one that's really taught me the leadership game and like how to really grow teams and build teams, which is going to help 10x the business, you know? So there's been so many mentors in life, and those are like the big ones, but there's also been a bunch of little small ones, and even just simple things. If I see someone doing something that I really can appreciate or think would add value in my life, I'll take that and I will definitely apply it.
That's awesome. I definitely have a similar story, and what I did was a different mentor that was in the wholesaling space. They gave me like books to listen, and I listened on Audible. So I was on a construction site up in Park City area doing carpentry contracting outside. But I was able to do my work and then have my headphones in. My second book was Grant Cardone, The 10X Rule. When I finished my third book, I told that contractor that was the GC, I'm like, I'm off to better things. Like I know in my mind that I can't be sitting here covered in sawdust and living my best life. Have you ever had any mentors that steered you wrong and had to reset and pivot?
Yeah, we always had that. I'm actually kind of a person that's really skeptical, and when we first started McKinsey, I started with my dad, and my dad actually, I had seen the heights of his success, but I also like heard a lot of like stories like he didn't have all of the same opportunities everybody else had, or he didn't get the same type of financing everybody else had, and like, you know, those stories led me to believe that like, you know, maybe I could do something big with him, right? And you know, when we started out the business together, and we were getting projects and things were going okay, and then we just got into the hole, and it got messy quickly. You know, it's like I was like basically mortgaging my entire future because everything was in my name, right? And he would always say like, "Oh, you got the rest of your life to make this money back." And it was like, dude, like I don't want to spend the rest of my life paying back for your mistakes. I'll pay for my mistakes, but I'll have to pay for your mistakes as well. So that was one mentor that like got me in trouble in that moment, right? We had done some projects, and then, you know, some of them went well, some of them didn't, and I was in the hole $500,000. Yeah, and I'd never even made six figures to that point. You know, and talking about $500,000 being in the hole, it was like so scary. And you know, one of the mistakes that I made there was all of those stories that I heard about his successes, those were like in the past, right? They weren't like in current times. So like, yes, he knew how to get results, but like you have to be able to get results in current times, not 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And you know, like,
the phone book's still big, right?
Say again?
The phone book is still a big thing, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's just online, right? Yellowpages.com or something, right? Or Google. So, you know, that was a mentor that, you know, honestly, I always look at it like at the same time, I don't want to look at it negatively, because it was the pressure that being $500,000 in the hole, like that pressure is what inspired me to make those phone calls. Like I was so scared, but I knew that like I had a fire behind me, and if I didn't make this money, that like I was going to be in big trouble, you know? So as bad as it was like catalyst to like really launch me to the next level. And then it was, yeah, that was a venture that should have gone better, but it didn't. And, but you know, we talked now, and I'm just glad that I made it through it, and I didn't I didn't break.
Going back to the mindset, right?
Right.
For sure. He mentioned mastermind. I think it was before we started the recording. What else have you done in the mastermind space that has helped you in your career?
Yeah, I've been a part of a bunch of masterminds, and you know, I was just talking with a buddy of mine earlier this week, and I was talking about all of the things that I've been a part of, but I also told him that like right now I'm just in full implementation mode. Like sometimes you can be a part of so many different things that like it almost becomes its own distraction. So like right now, I'm just focused on like applying the information that I've got, applying the leadership principles that I know, applying the frameworks that I've gotten from these masterminds, so that I can get my business to $100 million. I don't want to be one of those people that just talk about it. I want to be one that does it and actually puts this stuff into application. And that's one of the big things that I've been working on over the last 1 to 2 years, of just applying all of this stuff and staying focused, not trying to go to like the different masterminds and go to the different exotic trips, which are fun. They're great. I love them. Like, and you meet such great people, and I still have so many good relationships. And I still feed into those relationships, but I'm also trying to just stay focused and make sure that I hit those targets, because those same mentors that I'm learning from, like, the story is going to be way better when I start telling, like, when I'm telling the story that I went from $10 million to $100 million. And the only way I'm going to get there is by applying the things that I learned.
For sure. I think what you're talking about is, focusing on the down and dirty of figuring out the process, figuring out how to implement it, whether it's, who or what or whatever, and just really working on that and avoiding the shiny object syndrome that is just a constant battle where, you get texts and calls and friends that are like, hey, do you want to do this mastermind? It's, in Tennessee or wherever. And it's like, oh, that sounds like fun. But actually, I really need to stay here and get this part done, because I also know there's going to be something else that is down the road that's going to be the same type of thing and better timing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Especially now that I have kids, like, because there's already so much time that goes and gets invested into them. So now the time that I do have, like, I got to be super focused with it. And it's those, and don't take me wrong. There's anything wrong with, like, I love masterminds. I've got so much information and great guidance, and the strategies that I'm implementing in my business right now are from masterminds. So I'm not saying not to join them by any means, because like I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't join those masterminds. What I am saying is that it was almost becoming like this, for me, like it was like there was like a fascination, or it was like mental fantasy, you know what I mean? Going to, like, constantly, it was like an addiction almost, and it was like, I needed to just sit back and just apply and apply and apply, so that now I can create this next level of success.
Awesome.
Just as a reminder for our listeners today, we're talking about a couple topics. The first is starting a business. We've talked about how to learn from mentors. And now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about how to think about alternative investments. So, Oliver, I know you've done real estate investing as well. I'm not sure if you're involved in other alternative investments, but one of the questions I want to ask, and maybe it's too broad, but I want to ask it this way, trying to compare active investing versus passive investing. And the question is, what role would you say experience plays when being an active investor, whether you're talking about real estate or starting a business or any other alternative investment? How important is experience in your mind?
Yeah, experience is the thing that will get you to the next level. So when I was transitioning from being a subcontractor to being a general contractor, I knew nothing about being a general contractor. I had never done a project for the government as a prime contractor, nothing. I literally knew nothing about it. I did meet a guy that had done a lot of this type of work. So I met a guy that had done a lot of this type of work, right? And it was through an introduction of my dad. And he'd been a prime contractor for the government. And we sat down, we met at the airport. He flew down to JFK, and I was actually out in New Jersey. I had just gotten a foot surgery done on my left foot, and I was at my in-laws' house. And I literally remember telling them, like, hey, I'm going to go meet this guy in New York City. Like, how are you going to get there? And I was like, I'm going to take the train. So I literally hopped in with like crutches to the airport. We met at like this restaurant inside of the airport. And He told me, hey, kid, I got a bunch of contacts. I'm not giving you any of them. But if you go find contacts and you find opportunities, I'll help you execute on them. And like, that's all I needed to hear. You know what I mean? Like, so he was my experience. You asked about experience. Like, he was my experience. I remember just like cracking the door, opening the door, sitting down, saying, hi, my name is Oliver. I'm owner of McKenzie Construction, and then shutting up and just letting him go. And he would talk about his experience and like all of that stuff. And I was like, great, this is awesome. But yeah, no, when an experience, you 100% have to be with experience, even from the multifamily side. That was one of the great things that I got from being involved in the Broadcleaves community, is that all of a sudden I met other real estate investors that were already buying 100+ unit properties. So here I was, a kid that had done a duplex here and a single family there. And now I'm looking to get in 100+ unit properties. Like, I understood it, but I didn't understand it, right? I understood that like 100 units is like, if I divide it by 100, I would get one, and that's what I had. But like, now all of a sudden it was like multiplied by 100. So I was able to partner with these people in the multifamily space and be able to buy big apartments and be able to apply my construction knowledge that I learned on the single family and the duplex game. For example, we had a property here right down the street from me here, where I'm at right now in DC. It was a duplex that we renovated. So the basement first floor was one unit, and then the second floor, third floor addition that we had was another unit. And tenant moves into the basement first floor on a Thursday. Friday afternoon at like 4:45, I get a call. Hey, Oliver, we got water in our basement. I was like, oh my God. I'm gonna get start. Yeah. So I go over there and I'm like, what do we do? We called like all of the places that handle water in your basement. And they're like, call us back on Monday. Well, I was like, how do I call you back on Monday? There's water in his basement. He just moved in. There's mud actually coming in. So we had to basically re-waterproof this entire basement unit. And it was such a painful experience. We had just got done doing all the construction, and then it was fully done and renovated. Tenant moves in, and boom, we got hit with this, like, basically tear everything out and do it all over again. But those learnings that I took from that property are the exact same learnings that we applied to a 152 unit property in Atlanta, Georgia, that had 20 down units that had water infiltration. We literally did the exact same waterproofing strategies in those units. And this was a property that had been under contract 3 other times. So 3 groups said, I had it under contract, did the due diligence, and backed out on this thing because it was too overwhelming for them. But it wasn't overwhelming for me because I had the experience at the time. But I didn't have the experience of buying 100+ unit properties. I had the experience of this construction. So I partnered with people that had the experience of buying 100+ unit properties. And we came together and made an 80. And we were able to go in there, renovate that property, and sell it in 2 years. And it made an awesome return.
Oliver, both of those stories were perfect in answering what I was hoping to pull out of that question, in that if you don't have experience, that is not an excuse not to take action, right? There's other people that have experience that if you approach them correctly, they're willing to work with you, teach you, and obviously you're going to have to share in some of the benefits there, or share in some of the rewards. But in the long run, that cost will be much smaller than if you just try to do it on your own and failed miserably, blah, 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 et cetera. So you're demonstrating very well that you're willing to take action. You're willing to find other people that have that experience. And that has, I'm assuming, played a huge role in the success you've been able to create in your companies, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm of the mindset, I'd rather not have 100% of a grape, and I'd rather have 10% of a watermelon, or 20% of a watermelon, or 50% of a watermelon.
I love it.
I think he just answered your next question, Ben.
Yes. Yes, he did. So the next question, Oliver, and we're running out of time, so I'll probably end with this one. In regards to real estate, since you've got a lot of experience there, in your opinion, are small properties or larger properties riskier?
Are small properties or larger properties riskier? small properties are riskier. And the reason why they're riskier, and I know this from my own experience. I had this single family property in Maine where I grew up. And Maine, it's crazy. It gets all these snowstorms and it freezes and all this stuff. So you got to be careful of the pipes freezing. I had a tenant that was living there, and she was like one of those people that was like, I'm this and I'm so great and I pay my rent on time and I have a great job and I'm the best person in the world. And then like 2 months later, I get a call like, hey, I'm breaking the lease. And I'm like what? You're breaking the lease? Like middle of winter, like I'm in New York City at the time, and like she's in Maine now. I have to like figure out how all that's gonna work. And next thing you know, like she breaks the lease. She's the place is vacant, no rental income coming in, and I'm having to pay all the bills. I'm having to worry and stress about the pipes freezing and making sure it's snow plowed and all of the craziness that I didn't really want to deal with at the time. Whereas you buy these 100+ unit properties, even if you lose 10 tenants, you're still 90% occupied. You're still getting 90% of your money that you should be getting. And from when I started looking at it from that standpoint, from a risk standpoint, it's like I'd rather have 90% of something than have lose one tenant and it would be 100% vacant.
Great. Yeah. You're doing a great job answering my questions. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Oliver, in respect to your time, and we're getting close to our limit here, we're probably going to end and ask you our final questions. Before we get to that, though, is there anything else about starting a business, learning from mentors, or alternative investments you feel our audience should hear from you?
Yeah, it just reinforces all the things that I have said. I remember when I was in like grade school and high school, and a little bit of college, like I used to know everybody's stats. And what I mean by that is like, I used to know what Shaquille's stats were. I used to know Kobe's stats, Michael Jordan's stats. And one person's stats that I didn't know was my own stats. I didn't have any stats because I was so focused on everybody else's stats. And it wasn't until I just started focusing on myself and getting better and developing my game and stopped worrying about everybody else's game. I actually got rid of all the anxiety in my life and started actually developing my own stats. So it's about focus and being successful in anything. Anybody can do it. You just need to focus on it, put all of your attention and effort on it, and remove the distractions. But once the distractions are quieted, you can actually be the person that you want to become.
That's very well spoken. I'm not even going to comment on it. Beautiful.
That's awesome. And we have a standing joke for the last few days right now that we're building our team, and we're not just growing our team. We're building the 1994 Chicago Bulls. So I'm Michael Jordan. Ben is Scottie Pippen, and our third partner is Dennis Rodman. And we're having a little bit of fun with that right now.
Love it.
Well, we really appreciate you being on the show today. Our last thing is the final four. We ask the same questions to everybody, try and get the same information and some different value in that same space. But we ask 4 questions, and we'll just let you go with those. First question, what is your favorite business book?
So Rich Dad Poor Dad just got me in the mindset of being on the investor side, being on the business owner side of things versus being on the employee side or the self-employed side. Yeah. So from a mindset standpoint, getting me sold on that whole thought process, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
We probably need to get an affiliate code from Robert Kiyosaki because that book is so instrumental in so many people's lives that we've interviewed thus far.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Number 2, what brings you happiness?
Showing up, just being active, being present for the people that are in my life. I get extreme happiness from that.
Awesome. Tell us what your future retirement looks like.
I think I'm always going to have a little bit of work in me. I love being in the game. I mean, I literally view it as a game. And so it's like, if I view it as a game and I view business as, I look at business as like my baby. It's like, why would I want to get away from that? Would I be as involved as I am now? Probably not. but I would have a team, and I still like building something. I like building something versus just sitting on a couch doing nothing. Like I think that would be the death of me, just doing nothing, so.
Agreed. I think I have like 20, 40 years, whatever. But if I'm sitting on a couch, it's like a week.
Yeah.
I got to be doing stuff. I got to have something.
Yeah.
What's your favorite way to give back?
So we've been doing a charity here in DC where we give back to the local kids. And the reason why it's so important to me is because I remember my mom bringing me to the library as a kid, getting my schoolwork out, and making sure I just had that thought process of like, hey, get what's done in front of you complete. Get what's done in front of you complete. And we love giving back to kids in the inner cities and making sure that they have the resources to have that same reinforcement. Hey, we're going to focus on the gardens today. And once we're done focusing on the gardens, we're going to pick the fruits that we create, and we're going to go to a farmer's market and we're going to sell it. So it's like, we support Kid Power, and it's an organization that basically provides after school activities. And that's one of the things that they do at those after school activities.
Very cool. All right, Ben, you want to wrap us up?
Oliver, where can our listeners find you online?
So you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Oliver Fernandez _3.
We'll have those links in our show notes as well for everybody. Oliver, thanks for being on here. Just as a quick summary for our listeners, today we were talking about starting a business, how to learn from our mentors, and how to think about alternative investments. I would say that we all learned a lot from Oliver today, and having that mindset is extremely important in our success in business and in life, and giving back to people in our community or to our families is a great way to bring happiness into our lives. Thanks everybody for joining us on the Retire Wealthy and Happy podcast. We hope to see you next time. Thanks, Oliver.
Thanks, Oliver.